choice, the freedom and opportunity to make a decision based on 2 or more options. This channel is all about being able to use your gaming hardware your way. That's why when the OneXPlayer team reached out and offered to send a non-sponsored review unit to the channel for us to take a look at together, it made sense. They have so much confidence in the OneXPlayer X1 that they provided it to me without asking me to say anything about it other than sharing with you my own experiences trying it out. The unit they sent me came with a 100-watt USB-C charging adapter. I really like the braided charging cable with USB-C on both ends. It probably could be a little bit longer though for those times when you're tethered to the wall for those longer gaming sessions. It's shipped with this really cool magnetic back protective plate. You can put it on the back of the OneXPlayer X1 and not only does it protect the unit, but it also provides a fold-out kickstand. It comes with this really cool keyboard trackpad combo. I like how the SAD-W keys are color-coded to give it a little bit more of a gaming vibe. I like how the keys have a nice degree of travel to them, and they feel as sturdy on this mobile keyboard as any other detachable keyboard from other manufacturers. The trackpad can be used by just tapping on the top of it to click, or you can also press in on both the left and right sides to represent left and right clicks of the mouse. It is a really firm trackpad to press in though. One of the things I really like about the keyboard is that you can basically just kind of hover over the dock and it just snaps right into place. That's really well done. This provides you with the first of the 3 modes in which you can use the OneXPlayer X1 as a laptop. And what a fine way to look at this great website with that strikingly handsome looking fellow. We'll talk about the quality of the display in just a moment. You can also use the OneXPlayer X1 as a handheld gaming system. Start by removing these rubber protective inserts from the right and left side of the OneXPlayer X1. Then you can take the provided left and right controllers, insert them into the rails, and push down to snap them into place. The ABXY buttons have a reasonable amount of travel to them, and they bottom out at micro switches for activation. The thumbsticks use ALPS or potentiometer style sensors for reading movement. The shoulder buttons also use micro switches, but the triggers actually use Hall effect sensors. And the D-pad on the left controller, it's also micro switch controlled. There are also gyroscopes in those controllers for motion control, and they have a built-in rumble feature. I noted that the controllers, once connected to the OneXPlayer X1, do have a little bit of wiggle in them, but so does my Nintendo Switch, just to a lesser degree. Remove the detachable keyboard from the OneXPlayer X1, and you've got yourself a handheld gaming system. Okay, I admit, this look might be a little bit polarizing, but once you get your hands over the controllers, it becomes a lot less of a polarizing look and starts to look a lot more like any other contemporary handheld game system. Having a tablet mode with the OneXPlayer X1 is awesome, but it is a little bit of a thick boy. If you take a look here, if you pull off the keyboard, it's actually a little bit of a thick tablet compared to some of the contemporaries on the market. But considering you can play AAA titles in Windows on this tablet, it's a small concession to make to be able to have this much power on the go. And since this is a Windows 11 tablet, you can also rotate it from portrait to landscape mode to view websites and other portrait mode content on the go. So about that display, it's a stunner. It's basically an 11-inch display, an IPS panel, it's touchscreen, hits 100% of DPI-3 color, and runs all the way up to 120 Hz. There are a multitude of inputs and outputs, including a USB-A 3.2 port, micro SD card slot, the previously used rail for attaching the first controller, and sound ports for the 2 included Harman audio speakers. On top of the OneXPlayer X1, there's a dual-function power button. It turns the unit on and off, but it also has a fingerprint reader. There's a set of rocker switches that turn the volume up and down, and as you scroll over, there's also a thing called an OCuLink port. This is used to be able to connect things like an external or eGPU to the system. If you've never seen OCuLink like this before, it's a PCIe Gen 4 connector, so it provides super high-speed data transfer. There's a heat exhaust port off to the right, and I don't recommend that you shoot a photon torpedo into it. There's a turbo button on top of the OneXPlayer X1, and we'll take a look at what it does in just a moment. A welcome addition to the OneXPlayer X1 are 2 USB-C 4.0 ports that have the full 40 gigabits per second data rate. And of course, along the side of the unit, you have another rail for attaching a controller, and at the bottom, another port for the opposing Harman speaker. And on the bottom, a set of connecting pins that match up with the pogo pins on the attachable keyboard. With 2 USB 4.0 ports on board, you can connect a USB-C to HDMI cable and get video and audio out from the OneXPlayer to your television or PC monitor. Short pressing the turbo button on top of the unit opens up the OneXPlayer console. You can use this software console to make changes to key settings, such as the amount of wattage allocated to system performance, the fan speed, controller vibration settings, resolution and color adjustments, display brightness, and adjust the overall system volume. The Wi-Fi 6E hardware inside the OneXPlayer X1 performed admirably, allowing me to connect at the gigabit plus speeds available to me through my internet provider. So if you're sitting and watching and thinking, wait a minute, how fast is your upload speed? Well, it's going to cap out at about 235. The SSD provided with this unit is a scorcher. It caps out at 7,109 megabytes per second read and 6,255 megabytes per second write. Awesome! Cinebench testing reveals some other key information about this system. There's an AMD Ryzen 7 8840U processor here with Radeon 780M graphics. There are 8 cores, 16 threads, and a 3.3 GHz clock speed. It scored 1690 in single-core testing and 8950 in multi-core testing. System memory for this specific unit came in at 32 GB of DDR5X RAM, but it is expandable to 64 GB at the time of purchase. So here's the camera for the OneXPlayer X1. It's basically a 1 megapixel camera, but it does have a microphone array to help capture the sound quality. Yeah, you might want to save the camera for Windows Hello instead. The OneXPlayer X1 also shipped with a controller connection pad. So it's got a USB dongle hiding in the back of it. Just pull the door down and it's magnetically held in place. Remove the USB dongle and insert it into the USB port on the OneXPlayer X1. Just like the OneXPlayer X1, the controller connector also has a built-in battery and USB-C charging. Press the power button on the left side to turn on the controllers, and press the button on the right side if you need to re-pair the controller connector to the USB dongle. I like to think of this concept as using the OneXPlayer X1 basically as a 3.5-in-1 system, because you can just put it on a table and then use the controller connector remotely without having to connect the controllers directly to the unit. And just like when they're connected directly to the unit, they light up and the rumble function works correctly. You can play AAA titles from things like Steam, Epic Games, and others. I just happen to have an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate account, so I have 2 gameplays for you. The first one is from Forza Horizon 4. I'd probably slap up some frame per second counters and things like that, but here's the deal. My Sony a6700 camera can record at 120 frames per second, just like this display. My Mac Studio and my editing software can output video at 120 frames per second. But YouTube's going to cap the video at 60 frames per second anyway once it's uploaded and presented to you. And there's one more thing here for your consideration. You're looking at a screen being recorded by a camera, uploaded to YouTube and compressed, and then presented to you on whatever screen you're looking at. The IPS screen on the OneXPlayer X1 is much brighter and much higher resolution than the process of recording it, uploading it to YouTube, and then showing it on another external display. One other consideration is the type of content that you play on the device. Some games are going to cap out at 60 frames per second, while others are capable of going to the 120 frame per second refresh rate of this display. I think I can sum up the experience like this. Looking at this 11-inch IPS panel for playing games on the go is quite glorious. The sound is a little bit tinny, but it does fill the room once you turn the volume up to max. And of course you have things like options for wireless headphones or earbuds, and you even have a 3.5mm connection port for connecting wired headphones. And if you want an extreme sound experience, you can always connect a set of headphones with virtual surround sound through the USB-C port. So what are my thoughts about the OneXPlayer X1? Should you spend your own hard-earned money on it? It's hard to deny the beauty of this nearly 11-inch IPS panel for gaming on the go. It beats the heck out of playing some of these smaller systems that have 6-inch displays, for example, especially when you're like me and you get a few years and miles on your model. Along with some really strong hardware specs, I think the true advantage to the OneXPlayer X1 is choice. From being able to play it as a handheld game system, to dropping it on a keyboard and using it as a laptop, to using it in tablet mode either in landscape or portrait, to connecting it to a television and using the controllers remotely, the OneXPlayer X1 truly is about choice. It's available on Indiegogo, but the early adopter price is only going to be good for a little less than a week from the time this video goes live. I'll have a link in the description with the best place to buy it and the best available pricing at the time. With its powerful and flexible hardware, along with the choice of installing any software that you want on it, it's not just about Windows Hello, it's about saying hello to using Windows any way that you want on the go. Don't forget to check out the Indiegogo page for the OneXPlayer X1, and thanks again to the OneXPlayer team for letting us take a look at it together on the channel.